I was gonna rip his heart out, I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lennox is a conqueror, no, I'm Alexander, he's no Alexander. I'm the best ever, there's never been anybody ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston, I'm Jack Dempsey, there's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw, there's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart, I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah.
Welcome back to the Bout the Ropes podcast here on Keep It Real Boxing. I am your host, Cypherbox, and let's get into it. Now, as always, I always put that warning out there. You saw it in the intro. If you are a fanboy of any boxer, yeah, if you're not a real boxing fan, if you're a fanboy, turn back now. Because this channel is not for you. I criticize everyone, every boxer, every promoter, every broadcaster, etc, etc, etc. So if you are a fanboy, turn back now. Now listen, as always, if you want to see what I'm going to talk about in today's podcast, then obviously take a look at the description of the video, and there will be a whole list of the contents of the topics that I'm going to discuss today. Now, you're probably wondering why have I got Marquez and Miguel Cotto up on the screen right now. Listen, I put out a little question out on Instagram where I asked, guys to come back to me and not tell me which fight would they love to see that never got made. Okay. Now, I'm not talking about current fighters. There was a lot of jokers out there who started putting AJ Wilder. Okay, but AJ Wilder can still be made. Yeah, that fight can still happen. I'm not saying it will, but it could happen. I even had some joker put in Tommy Fury versus Jake Paul. Listen, that ain't boxing for me, yeah? Don't waste my time with that sort of stuff. I'm talking about fights where the guys have retired, their careers are over, and they never stepped into the ring with each other. This is a fight I always wanted to see, which was Juan Marquez versus Miguel Cotto at welterweight. Never happened, never took place. I don't even remember it being discussed. Yeah, so I think that would have been a great fight. It's one of the fights that I would have loved to see, along with obviously the obvious ones like, Lewis versus Bout, etc., stuff like that. So leave it in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Which fights would you have loved to have seen, which will never ever be made now? Yeah. And I'm talking about guys who have retired. Yeah, get the question right, guys. I'm not talking about current fighters who could still probably end up stepping in the ring with each other. Okay? Just a little fun. Hit me up in the comment section. Let me know which fights you would love to see, you would have loved to see, that will never ever be made now. So where do I want to start off today? Okay, let's start off with this guy, yeah, Mr. Delusional. Yeah, Mr. Delusional, Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez did an interview recently with Fight Hype. Still putting out there that he was robbed, that Dazn fixed the fight, that's why he lost to Kambosos, etc, etc. You know what I'm on about, yeah? All the excuses that have come out for Teofimo Lopez from him and his dad are still going on. Yeah, it was embarrassing to watch, and I'm going to play you the clip as well of Teofimo Lopez from his Fight Hype interview. It was embarrassing to watch. Yeah, to see his behavior, to see his body language, the fact that this guy has conned himself into believing, him and his dad have conned themselves into believing, yeah, have deluded themselves that they were robbed. Yeah, I remember like Teofimo Sr., his interview from a few months ago, where he said that if the fight had been on Top Rank and under Bob Arum, this wouldn't have happened to us. Okay, so if you think you were cheated on Dazn, does that mean because you were going to work, if Bob Arum had control of the fight, does that mean Bob Arum would have cheated and fixed the fight so your boy would have won? Okay, but look, listen, let's play the clip, all right? And let's hear Teofimo Lopez himself make these accusations about Dazn and how they fixed the fight.
Oh, the whole shit was a scheme, bro. They had Dazn. I was on the Dazn platform. They gave it to Kambosos because they knew what I was going to do with it. They knew what I was going to do. I was going to drop him. Then it's a longer process for Devin to become, quote-unquote, undisputed. It's all a game, man. They pay that shit.
But isn't it going to be tough to win in Australia, though? Like, if it's a setup, isn't it? When they set it up in America, not Australia, where... Why
everything's already made. It's everything. I had to see that for myself.
So then, like,
they already knew who won before they even fucking announced it. See the tapes.
Hey, Tio, what advice would you give Dev on what he's got to do in the ring with Kambosos?
Fuck both of them.
Hey, Tio, is the hand okay, man?
So you can see his body language there, right? His body language says everything there. That's a guy trying to convince himself that he was robbed, he was the fight was fixed, etc., etc., right? That's a man who can't accept his loss. You saw what I put on the actual video, yeah, which I put up on Instagram, right? This is the same guy who called Deontay Wilder a bitch, told him stop being a bitch and take your L like a man. Well, guess what, Teofimo Lopez? Stop being a bitch and take your L like a man, right? Careful what energy you put out there, because it's going to come back at you. And that's exactly what's happened here to Teofimo Lopez. Okay, he put that energy out there when it came to Wilder, for when Wilder made all those excuses as to why he lost the second fight to Tyson Fury. Yeah, I was one of those guys. I called Wilder out on that stuff plenty of times on Instagram. Okay, so this guy is now doing the exact same thing. This is a guy who can't accept defeat. His facial expressions there, you know, he's trying to push a narrative that he doesn't even believe himself. But rather than admit, hey, better man won on the night, don't worry, you know, I'm sure he'll come up to 140, we'll settle it one day, etc., etc., etc. Nah, he's got to make excuses. Yeah? Oh, if I won, they knew what I was going to do. I was going to drop the belts. Really? Were you going to drop the belts? Because your dad says you've been struggling to make 135 for a long, long time. So why didn't you just drop the belts after the Lomachenko fight and say, hey, I can't make this weight no more, I'm moving up to 140? You could have fought Devin Haney. The IBF gave you an opportunity. The IBF said, fight Devin Haney for the Undisputed Championship of the World or take on your mandatory challenger, Kambosos. He opted to take the Kambosos route. Yeah? I mean, what more is there to say about this guy than that? These are all excuses. Oh, the fix was already in. My hand was, the referee hand was raising my hand and blah, blah. So what? He's just like, this guy, did you watch the fight? The guy got his ass beat. And he still can't take it. He still can't admit it. I'm telling you now, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. And the thing is, yeah, when you go up in weight classes, the fights only get harder. Yeah, because you're dealing with more weights, you're dealing with guys who have been naturally at 140 for a long, long time, etc. Right? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make it does like. I'm convinced. I think, yeah, you know what, Teofimo, yeah, he might get a few wins at 140, but I think he's gonna have problems going forward unless he starts owning up to the fact that he lost this fight. That's just my personal opinion, but hey, we'll see what happens. You know. Also, I've heard that Ramirez and Jack Catterall have now notified their lawyers. They're putting an appeal with the WBO because the WBO have now dropped those two in the rankings to put Teofimo Lopez and who's the other guy? I can't remember who the other guy is as a number one contender or something like that in their rankings. So if he wins his next fight, he gets a shot at the title, or it will be for the vacant belt. I don't know. You know, you're telling me, and Bob has a lot of sway with the WBO. Bob Arum has a lot of sway with the WBO. So read into that how you will. Yeah. That just sounds suspect to me. Anyway, look, let's give the final word now to Teofimo Lopez's dad.
You know, when you don't have no freaking lungs, because that's what the sport's all about. You know, you can't play basketball, soccer, or any sport without lungs. So,
this is another point I'm going to make now, yeah? Okay, so which is it? Was the fight fixed? Or was it because Teofimo was having medical difficulties in terms of his breathing? Which is it? Sounds like very much like Deontay Wilder right now, right? It was the gloves, it was the referee, someone spiked my drink, this, that, etc. Do you know what I mean? It's starting to sound like that. So was it because the fight was fixed by Dazn and Eddie Hearn, and the fix was already in? Or was it because of his medical conditions that he was apparently suffering from at the time? You know, maybe you shouldn't allow the world's strongest man, Thor, to punch you in the chest in the build up to the fight. Yeah, but which is it? Which is it? Let me know in the comment section. You let me know which one you think it is. Was it because of the medical conditions? Was it because of the breathing issues? Or was it because Dazn fixed the fight? Teofimo Lopez is officially Deontay Wilder 2.0. That's it. I'm putting it out there. Like, I'm tired of this, man. Like, this guy's a joke. Him and his dad have become the biggest joke in boxing right now. Seriously. Now, it's been put out there that apparently this fight is a done deal now. It's going to happen in Australia, June 5th. Mike Coppinger put this out there. He's now put it out there as it's official, it's done. I've not heard anything official just yet. So fingers crossed this fight does happen. Look, I've said this before. You know, why wouldn't you want to see this fight for Undisputed? Yeah, I get it. You know, look, Lomachenko's a very good fighter. Kambosos versus Lomachenko would have been a good fight as well. However, this is for Undisputed. So for me, this is the one out of the two fights I would have wanted to see, and it's like we're going to see it. So hopefully we do get this fight done. However, there are other bits of news that have come along with this. Yeah. So let's start with Bob Arum, Top Rank, and Devin Haney's co-promotional deal. And here it is. This came from Boxing Scene. Devin Haney's new co-promotional deal with Bob Arum's Top Rank and Lou Dibella for the George Kambosos Jr. fight includes a rematch clause. If Haney beats Kambosos twice and stays at lightweight, Vasily Lomachenko reportedly could be next, according to Boxing Scene. Now, before you Matchroom Eddie Hearn fanboys start jumping around and saying, oh, that's not true, Eddie wouldn't do that, and Devin wouldn't go over to Top Rank and all that stuff, blah, 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 blah. Before you all start doing that, this is what Eddie Hearn had to say about the whole situation. Eddie Hearn on Devin Haney signing with Bob Arum and Lou Dibella to fight George Kambosos Jr. His plan is to go and get those belts and then come back. I want Devin to become undisputed. Devin's a very loyal kid, but you can't miss an opportunity like this at the DAZN boxing show. There you go. Eddie Hearn has confirmed that Devin Haney has signed a co-promotional deal with Lou Dibella and Bob Arum, and I'm guessing it's for the 2-fight deal with Kambosos. And then obviously if after that he still stays at lightweight, he's got an opportunity to fight Vasily Lomachenko. Now, of course, if you'd been listening to my podcast over the last few weeks, you would hear me talk about how these fighters aren't really scared of each other, right? Okay, now I'm going to use this as an example again, right? So a couple of years ago, I think you'll remember that Devin Haney was the mandatory challenger to Lomachenko's WBC belt. Lomachenko vacated that belt and, you know, petitioned to the WBC. His team did anyway, to make him the franchise champion, right? I played a clip last week, not last week, I think about 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, where I played a clip from Mauricio Suleiman, where he openly admitted that, yeah? Okay, he basically turned around and said that Team Lomachenko requested for Lomachenko to be the franchise champion. A lot of people said, hey, it's a duck, he ducked Haney, he's scared of Haney, right? I turned around and said, listen, yeah, it's a business duck, it's not a duck that Lomachenko's scared to fight Devin Haney, nor do I think Devin Haney's scared to fight Lomachenko, okay? It's a business duck, if you want to call it that, yeah? Let's call it that. What I said was going on here is the reason they did that is because obviously DAZN at that time was putting a lot of money behind things, okay? A lot of money behind things, right? And the fear there was that if it went to purse bids, let's say, you know, the WBC ordered the fight and then obviously they couldn't come up with a good deal within a 30-day period, and it goes to purse bids. The risk was that Dazn would win that purse bid, and Lomachenko would have to fight on Dazn against Devin Haney. Yeah? Okay. Top Rank, ESPN, okay, and Bob Arum could not allow that to happen. So rather than allowing that to happen, they petitioned to have Lomachenko promoted to a franchise position. Yeah, that joke belt. Yeah, the comedy belt. Okay. That way, he still gets a hold of, keeps the hold a WBC belt, and remains on ESPN. He doesn't have to go over to Dazn to fight on Dazn. Right? That was the reason behind it. Bob Arum was not going to allow that to happen. They weren't going to have one of their stars, their top stars. Yeah. ESPN weren't going to allow that to happen either, etc. Now you look at this. Look what's going on here. Devin Haney has now had to sign a co-promotional deal with Lou Dibella and Bob Arum to potentially get a fight. If he beats Kambosos twice, he has to beat him twice, of course. He has to get past that challenge first. But if he was to beat Kambosos, then he may actually get a shot at Lomachenko. So why would they give him that shot at Lomachenko now if Lomachenko was ducking? Yeah, it was a business move. I keep saying this, yeah? You guys are arguing and going back and forth with each other. I see you in social media, you know, your fighter's scared, no, your fighter ran, your fighter doesn't want to fight him, and all this sort of stuff. Actually, I've always said, been saying this for weeks now, if you put two fighters in a room together, they'll probably come out with a deal and the fight is made. But unfortunately, they're not that smart and that business savvy. They need these businessmen around them to make the fights, all the legalities and all that sort of stuff. And once the promoters and the managers get involved, you get all of this. Oh, no, yeah, we don't want to fight him. No, oh, make him the franchise champion. Oh, no, all that sort of stuff starts happening. Yeah, I said it about Kambosos and Haney. They were very respectful of each other at the beginning. You know, when Kambosos beat Lopez, he went and watched Devin Haney fight. And in the build-up of that, they were talking to each other. I showed you the clip. They were talking to each other, respectful, saying, yeah, we're going to get it on. We're going to get it on. It has to make sense, but we're going to get it on. Let's do this in Australia. Haney's like, I'll fight on Jupiter if you want. I'll go to Jupiter if you want. And we'll fight. Great, let's do it. Respectful, shaking each other's hand, complimentary of each other. The minute the managers and the promoters started getting involved, that was it. Yeah. Lou Dibella doesn't really, he has his personal issues with Eddie Hearn. You know, you gotta read between the lines, guys. Is basically what I'm trying to say. The problem in boxing isn't necessarily the fighters. The fighters want to fight each other. The problem are the business people, the promoters, the managers, the broadcasters. That's what gets in the way of great fights being made. And this is me like sitting there saying that, hey, I was right. Look at it. Devin Haney, now that he's signed to a co-promotional deal with Lou Dibella and Bob Arum, and if he wins those two fights against Kambosos, Bob Arum saying, hey, you'll probably get Vasily Lomachenko now as well. Because they didn't want it to be on the Dazn platform. They want it to be on the ESPN platform. So like I've been saying for weeks now, for weeks and weeks and weeks, yeah, this is all about business, guys. Yeah, this promoter doesn't want his fighter to fight here, etc. and stuff like that. Okay, Eddie Hearn. All right, I don't know the ins and outs of Devin Haney's deal with Dazn and Eddie Hearn and Matchroom. Right, I'm guessing his contract must be up for him to be able to go across and sign a co-promotional deal with Bob Arum and Lou Dibella and Top Rank. Okay, so if that's the case, Eddie's got no control of that situation anyway. Because Devin's going to turn around and say to him, hey, listen, man, I got to go over there and get these belts and get those shots. That's what I got to do. Yeah? All this fussing from Lou Dibella saying, hey, we're offering this deal, that deal. I don't know if this was originally the deal. Yeah? This must have been the deal that Lou Dibella threw at Eddie Hearn. It had to be. And I can see why Eddie Hearn probably turned around and said, hell no, I'm going to give you a counter offer. This is the counter offer. But now Devin Haney said, listen, I'm just going to do what they want. They want me to do. Because I got to get these belts. I got to get this shot. That's exactly what he's doing. See, I told you, it's business moves. The business of boxing is getting in the way of great fights happening. Okay? And this kind of exposes that Lou Dibella wasn't prepared to do business with Eddie Hearn unless it was on his terms, his and Bob Arum's term, because obviously they signed a deal or something to work together now on ESPN. That's why originally, where people were saying, oh, Haney's probably pricing himself out, Haney's scared, and all you guys are saying that sort of stuff, that's not true. The fact is the businessmen are saying, no, we want to dominate this situation. We want to be in full control of the situation. And Devin Haney clearly has given in to that. So, like I said before, I've been saying it for weeks now. Yeah, the problem in the sport are the managers, the promoters, the broadcasters, the business people in this sport. They're the issue. That's why fights aren't getting made. Or is that why some fights that we wanted to see years ago still aren't happening? But Bud Crawford, versus Errol Spence Jr. Business is getting in the way. I talked about that a few weeks ago. I've talked in the past about Deontay Wilder versus AJ. Yeah, stop your tribalism for 1 minute and see things with a clear mind of what's going on in the sport. That's what I'm going to say to you guys. Yeah, naturally we cling to tribes based on what we feel, yeah, on our emotions. But if you take the emotion out of it and you see it for what it is, then you will see that it's the business people, the business side of the sport that's getting in the way of these fights being made. These fighters aren't scared of each other. Period. So let's talk about this next, right? So the Raging Babe, she's a female promoter. She put this out. Not sure Kambosos can sell out in Australia on his own. Loma was going to be a big help in generating dollars, even with a rematch. It would do well there. Haney isn't that well known, and he's not a big draw in the US, let alone in Australia. I can understand why the push was Loma. Can't disagree with her. Devin Haney isn't that well known of a name compared to Lomachenko. Let's be honest about this, yeah? And this is not me being Lomachenko fanboy or anything like that. Think about it. If you're pushing a fight in Australia with Kambosos, where his own countrymen probably don't really know a lot about him. Yeah, they're probably learning about him now, but they didn't know anything about him before. But a lot of the casual boxing fans and even the die-hard boxing fans are going to tune in for who? For who more? Devin Haney or Lomachenko? If you say our very own Australian unified champion of the world will take on the great Vasily Lomachenko, that's probably going to sell a lot better than, Kambosos is going to fight for the undisputed championship of the world against Devin Haney. Who's Devin Haney? Is going to be the reply. I'm not saying they won't tune in for it, but it's a harder sell, is what she's saying. And I have to agree with her. Okay? So originally where all the stuff where the negotiations originally broke down and stuff like that, obviously I think Lou Dibella threw the deal that I just spoke about at Hearn, and Hearn said no and tried to come back with a counter offer, all that mess. But now remember, this fight is only happening because Vasily Lomachenko has chosen to stay back in his country in the Ukraine to help defend his country against Russia in the conflict. If Lomachenko was coming back home, if he was deciding that, I'm going to leave the situation I'm in at the moment, go and train and take on Kambosos, then we would be seeing Kambosos versus Lomachenko. But because Lomachenko has decided that he's not going to do that, Kambosos has to go for the next best option, which is Devin Haney. But in order for that fight to have happened, Devin Haney would have had to accept the deal that was probably thrown at him a few weeks ago in order to get that fight against Kambosos, which is sign a co-promotional deal with Lou Dibella and Bob Arum, Top Rank, etc. See? Business. It's all business. It's these businessmen and women. That's why you guys need to stop all this tribalism. Stop it. See the real problem in the sport. It's these business people. It's the business of the sport that gets in the way. Yeah, now this fight potentially wouldn't have happened if, like I said, if Lomachenko had agreed to fight Kambosos, but he's decided not to. So now they have to go for the next best option. Although I don't think Kambosos is probably happy about that, because his attitude towards Haney has completely changed. The respect has completely gone, I feel. But I'm going to play you a clip in a minute where Kambosos did an interview, but I think he personally wanted that fight with Lomachenko because there's more money in it. And if he lost that fight to Lomachenko, you could say, well, he's a great name, he's a great fighter, you know, he's a legend. He'll probably throw things out like he's a legend, you know, he's a multi-divisional champion, an amateur, two-time gold Olympic gold winner, etc. and stuff like that, you know. And at the same time in his head, he'll be thinking, well, I got a massive payday for it as well. Do you get it? But against Devin Haney, who probably hasn't done that much in the sport or hasn't got those sort of credentials, hey, you know, that's a bit of a harder pill to swallow, right? So, and he might not even make that much money. Depends how many people decide to tune in to pay for the pay-per-view out there in Australia as well. I'm just saying.
Look, I respect it, you know. Me and Lomachenko, hell of a fight, and we'll do it. We'll do it. Hopefully by the end of the year. But I respect that his country at the moment is in a tough time, and he can probably get out now. But he's got a bigger fight at the moment, so I respect it. I want him to stay safe, healthy. He's a hell of a fighter, and it is what it is. But we got a guy in America, a guy who has been given something and thinks that he's got a nice entitlement from it. So if that guy in America is a man of his word and he said he'll take the same deal that Lomachenko will take, and I'll see you here early June in Melbourne.
What have you made of his last couple of fights? Man in America.
Who's that man in America? I'm not going to take away anything from him. They weren't fight of the years, to say the least.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not going to give him too much negative, because I want to make that fight happen. I want to make him out like he's the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
So when I beat him up and then take that other little toy he's got, it just shows what I'm about. So yeah, look, we'll see. There's a lot of moving pieces, and boxing is always moving. Boxing is always, you think you got one thing done, or something changes. But I'm used to this adversity. I've been through so much adversity throughout my whole career, especially for the Lopez fight. So I got all the belts. I continue doing what I do best, and that's in the ring, training, getting better, faster, sharper, stronger, more ruthless than ever. And I can't wait to defend what's mine at home.
How close was the Lomachenko fight?
It was done. It was done. It was a couple of days away from being fully done, but it was there. So it is what it is. It's no problem, because venues, it's all set. It's who wants it. If he's a man of his word, Mr. Devin Haney, and I will see you in Melbourne.
You see what he said there? He said, I'm not going to talk about Devin Haney negatively, because I've got to build him up to make him sound like, I've got to make him sound like he's the best thing since sliced bread. You know, he talked highly of Lomachenko, but when he was asked about Devin Haney, well, you know, I'm not going to talk negatively. They won't, his fights aren't fight of the year. It's all business. And then he even turned around and said, if Haney takes the same deal like he said he would, like Lomachenko did, the same deal that Lomachenko was willing to take, then great, we've got a fight in Melbourne. See what I mean? So I don't think it's necessarily Kambosos was scared or anything like that, yeah, or Haney was scared. It's all business, man. Listen to what he's saying. He's clearly saying, yeah, to you there, yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed. It's Haney, there's nothing to really brag about him, like he's not really accomplished anything in the sport, his fights aren't exactly great, and basically what he's saying to you, it would have been much better if it's Lomachenko. I would have made a lot more money out of that fight with Lomachenko. I'd get more credit and more respect for the fight against Lomachenko. I won't against Devin Haney, because Devin Haney's not really done anything in the sport. Yeah, but I've got to build this kid up now to the Australian public so I can get my paper. There you go. That's what he's literally just said there. I told you. Yeah, this is all about business, guys. Oh, and I forgot to show you this. Right? I should have shown you this earlier, but I forgot about this. Right? So this came out as well before all the reports of, Devin Haney signing with Lou Dibella and Bob Arum, Top Rank, etc. This was put out there by Michael Benson. Give him a follow on Twitter. Dazn have reportedly been unable to do a deal with George Kambosos Jr., promoter Lou Dibella, to show a potential Devin Haney fight. It's claimed that if Haney accepts Dibella's offer, it would now likely be shown on ESPN in the US instead, according to Boxing Scene. Remember I told you, Lou Dibella has done a deal with Top Rank Promotion and Bob Arum and ESPN, so naturally that's why he wants the fight to be. So there you go, man. Yeah, need I say any more? It's all about business, people. Yeah, these fighters aren't scared of each other. It's all about business, politics, etc. So Ryan Garcia has been vocal again, and obviously he's giving his opinion on George Kambosos, and this is what he had to say. The thing that I like about Kambosos, he might not be the best talent, but he probably works super hard. He beat talent when talent didn't work hard. You can never knock a guy on that. I wish that he makes a lot of money in the sport and that he can take care of his family forever. All right. He then goes on to say that was a very weird fight. Don't get me wrong, Kambosos, kudos to him for winning. I don't think he's as skillful as Teofimo. I still don't think he's as skillful. I think he caught Teofimo at the right time. That's all. I really do believe that.
Have you spoken to Oscar De La Hoya recently about a Kambosos fight?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a fight I definitely would want. There's a reason everyone's licking their chops. You know? Everyone wants all them bouts, man. Ooh, man. Orthodox fighter. Ooh, I could. Not tricky, kind of just right there. Everybody's licking their chops to get those bouts.
So that was Ryan Garcia on the Dazn boxing show with AK, and the boxing bully. I've forgotten his name. The guys I'm on about. But yeah, he was basically saying, literally saying, like, I'm licking my chops. Everyone's licking their chops because this guy isn't all that. He works hard, but he's not very skillful. We've seen what he just said in his comments as well. All right, but let's go back and hear what Reed basically. Let me read out to you basically what Kambosos said in reply. So this is what George Kambosos had to say. Winners focus on winning. Losers focus on winning. You've done nothing in the sport except create a big social media presence. So just keep working hard, kid. And focus on my boy Tago, or whatever the guy's name, because he's coming. You best believe that. So I think Ryan Garcia, what he's trying to say is, in a sense, is that, this guy isn't that talented. He's not that skillful. He works really hard. He puts a lot of effort. Basically, what he says is this guy wins if, that old saying, yeah? Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Yeah, and he's basically saying that if you're a talented fighter like he believes he is, Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez, if you're talented fighters like that and you don't work hard, this guy will beat you. But if you put in the work to match your talent, it's an easy fight. That's the impression I get from Ryan Garcia there. But Ryan Garcia needs to focus on himself right now. I spoke about him a couple of weeks ago. A lot of people think the whole mental illness, the depression, the anxiety he's dealing with is all, a fake, is all nonsense. I don't have that belief. If the guy says he's got it, he's got it. And I obviously saw an interview a while ago where I felt like, something's not right. Well, I don't know if he's ready to be back in the ring or not. I'm not in his camp, in his family, so I don't know. Okay, but they're going with it. Okay. So right now, he needs to focus on a get-back fight. Get himself back into the scene before he starts calling out the likes of someone like Kambosos and saying, hey, Kambosos is easy work. One thing Ryan does is, and what shoots him in the foot is, he talks a lot. He talks a big game. Yeah, talks a big game. Said he wanted to fight Gervonta Davis. Leonard Olivier started putting the contract together. He then said, hey, I'm going to have a fight with Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao's team turned around and said, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. We don't even talk to his team. So Ryan, in my opinion, yeah, Ryan just needs to kind of be quiet for a while, focus on what he needs to focus and getting himself back on track mentally and back in the ring before he starts calling out the top dogs in the sport. Because he's right to a degree. Ryan's not done anything. He's beat Luke Campbell, Luke Campbell's a really good boxer. Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Luke Campbell, but at the same time, what else has he done in the sport? He's not done anything yet. So I can't agree where George Kambosos is coming from. Do your thing, work hard, yeah. Get past your next fight, because that's going to be a tough one for you, yeah. Once you get past that, keep working, and eventually we might meet, and we'll see what's what then. Do you see what I mean? So, yeah, you know, for me, Ryan Garcia, I agree. Just stay focused, man. Yeah, stop, you know, focus on the guy that's in front of you right now, and don't worry about the guy that's nowhere near you at the moment. That would be my advice to Ryan Garcia. And obviously, just want to finish on this in terms of the lightweights. Okay, Gervonta Davis, his contract with Mayweather Promotions is apparently up, and he's moving on. He's not re-signing with Mayweather, apparently. Listen, I've seen this a lot with Gervonta Davis and Floyd Mayweather. It's like a father and son relationship, you know, where the son's like, I've had enough of you, man. I'm moving off. It's that kind of thing, yeah. It's like back and forth. We've seen a lot of this. I don't know whether this is just to hype up the fight and gain some interest from, you know, in the fight, you know, for Gervonta Davis versus Rolly Romero. I don't know. Personally, I've not seen enough of Rolly Romero to know how good he is or how bad he is. He's not exactly a massive name in the sport. You know, Gervonta Davis is a well-known name in the sport. Is this some sort of hype? I don't know. Or is this genuinely true? Who knows? Yeah. One thing I'm going to say is, if this is true, and Gervonta Davis goes and signs with Top Rank or Golden Boy or Eddie Hearn, you know, all those channels out there that have been, you know, talking about race and saying that how I've been, you know, be getting on the back of Terence Crawford, calling him a sellout because he won't sign with Al Heyman and all this sort of stuff, etc. And yeah, they're happy for him to be frozen out because he's a sellout to the black race or whatever it is and all that sort of stuff, right? What are you going to say about your boy Gervonta, who you've been backing 100%? Not only that, those same channels have been backing Devin Haney in that way as well. And Devin Haney seems to have gone and done a deal with Bob Arum, and Lou Dibella. And Bob Arum is one of those guys, those promoters who they're accusing of racism and all that sort of stuff. I'm not saying racism doesn't exist. Yeah, I'm not white. Yeah, of course it exists. Yeah, and exists in all walks of life. Okay, I just want to see what their energy is going forward. Whether if this is true, and he decides to go and join someone like Bob Arum, would be interesting. But then again, is this just hype? Is this just their way of hyping up the fight? Who knows? We'll wait and see. Listen, personally, I think it's probably just hype. I think they're just trying to get up the pay-per-view numbers, the ticket sales, and all that sort of stuff. But we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. Okay, so Eddie Hearn's put this out there that he's revealed that Demetrius Andrade's contract with Matchroom is set to expire after his fight with Zach Parker, on May 21st. He said he does not expect it to be renewed as they've been unable to secure big fights for Demetrius Andrade. Okay, here's my take on this, right? You got to remember, yeah? Do you remember when Demetrius Andrade went to Canelo's press conference? Yeah, Verde, you want Verde? Yeah, you remember that, right? Okay. Eddie Hearn showed his true colours there because he literally had security take Andrade out. Yeah, throw him out of the press conference. Okay. That's what I like to see fighters do. If they can't get the fight, get up in the fighter's face. And that's exactly what Demetrius Andrade did. And Eddie Hearn, listen, I have to admit, Canelo was on a fight-to-fight basis contract of a deal with Matchroom. He still is. He's not tied down to Matchroom. It's a fight-to-fight thing, right? He's a free agent. Demetrius Andrade is your actual fighter who you represent. And you had him booted out of the press conference. Yeah? You've not pushed to make that fight with Canelo, even though you've got good ties, strong relationships with Canelo. You've not pushed that. Yeah? And let's face it, he couldn't get the fight with Jamal Charlo, etc. and stuff like that So Eddie Hearn has failed massively for Demetrius Andrade, but Demetrius Andrade has to take some responsibility as well. Did he join Matchroom at the beginning and Dazn because he knew he was going to get some fat paychecks? Probably yes. Instead of doing what was probably right for his career, which may, in that situation, has gone with a promoter who could have got him those fights against Charlo, which maybe have been, you know, the PBC Al Heyman route. And now the problem is, where does he go? Who's going to pick up Demetrius Andrade now? What does Demetrius Andrade bring to the table? He's a very talented fighter. I like Demetrius, but what does he bring to the table? His record doesn't speak, you know, loudly or anything like that. It's not a very, you know, he ain't got a great record. Let's be honest. Maybe a, you know, multi-world champion or whatever, but his record doesn't look great. There's not enough names on there, you know. So does he now approach Al Heyman and say, hey, listen, you know, what can you do for me? Does he join Bob Arum? If he joins Bob Arum, he's not going to get those fights he wants over there with Al Heyman. So it might be the case that he might have to sign with Al Heyman. That's if Al Heyman wants to sign him, of course. You know, I don't think this is not good news for Demetrius Andrade, in my opinion. I think it leaves him in limbo. Like, where is he going to get his next shot from, or his next fight after this Zach Parker situation? I have no idea. You know, because I don't think you're gonna find, you know, all these other top promoters rushing, trying to bang down his door and get his signature on a contract. So, you know, Eddie Hearn's, you know, he's left him in the lurch a little bit, but at the same time, Demetrius Andrade probably may have not made the best, you know, moves for his career in terms of signing from Matchroom and Eddie Hearn and stuff like that. And, you know, maybe he chased the paper because he knew Dazn were going to give out some fat paychecks. But, you know, let me know what you think anyway. But that's just my opinion. I think he's put himself in a bad situation after the Zach Parker situation. The fight's done, which I think he would win. But at the same time, I mean, God forbid, if he loses that fight to Zach Parker, he's coming over here to the UK for that fight to happen. If he loses that fight, geez, he's got no title. He's got no promoter, he's got no promotional company, he's got no broadcaster. Where does he go? You know? But even if he wins, where does he go? I personally think Andrade is in a lose-lose situation here right now, if this is true. You know, I think he's going to find it really difficult to negotiate a deal with, you know, the likes of Al Heyman, Bob Arum, because what is he bringing? Right? What is he bringing? Yeah, look, we'll have to see how it plays out. But I don't think Andrade is in a very good position right now. If this is the case, that his contract's about to expire. Eddie Hearn putting his opinion out there again, as he always does. Eddie Hearn, how can you have Jermall Charlo not fighting Caleb Plant, or Charlo not fighting David Benavidez, or Benavidez not fighting Plant? You're providing substandard fights that no one's interested in, rather than making a fight that could invigorate boxing. Then along came this guy, Fanon Boxing, is it? I hope I pronounced that right. And he says, didn't Caleb Plant get knocked out in his last fight? And aren't Charlo and Benavidez in two different weight classes? Do talks to hear his spit fly. And here's my take on this, yeah, right? I've agreed. I agree with Eddie Hearn on this. I've been saying this for weeks. This whole thing, isn't Benavidez and Caleb Plant or Charlo and Benavidez in two different weight classes? Well, so is Canelo. Canelo's not coming down to 160 pounds to fight Charlo. So that means if Charlo wants that fight against Canelo, he's going to have to go up to 168 pounds. So if he's willing to do that for Canelo, why isn't he willing to do that for David Benavidez? Why is he not willing to do that for Caleb Plant? This doesn't make sense, what you're saying. Yeah? I'm guessing this is a guy who's protecting his favourite fighter. I have no idea. I don't know who, I don't follow this page. I just saw the reply. Okay, and that's my opinion on it. Okay, you've got those fighters. I've been saying it for weeks. You've got those fighters on your platform. Mix it up. Caleb Plant just did an interview on the Boxing Boys saying that in order to get a shot against Canelo again, he's got to do what Canelo says he's got to do, which is start fighting the David Benavidez's, the Caleb Plants, etc. and stuff like that. If you want to ever fight me again, I'm busy this year. You better put in some work. Okay? When you're at the top of the ladder, when you're the king of the sport, which, you know, Canelo is, and he starts putting that sort of energy out there, you got to be thinking to yourself, actually, you know what? I better start fighting these other guys. Yeah, because Charlo is protecting his belt right now. Yeah, he doesn't want to lose. He's taking nice, safe fights. I'm not saying they're easy fights, but they're probably not on the level that he's on. I mean, he's fighting Selecki next, for crying out loud. Yeah, he's not exactly. I went through these guys' records not too long ago, a few weeks ago. Charlo's record at middleweight is rubbish. He's not fought anyone, period. Caleb Plant, yeah, once he won that belt, he protected that belt to keep his money, keep the bag alive, you know, for that big Canelo bag. Same with Charlo, he's doing exactly the same thing. Billy Joe Saunders did the same thing. Callum Smith did the same thing. They all protected their records, kept themselves safe, ensured they didn't lose, because they knew they had something that Canelo wanted, which was a belt. Yeah, Charlo's trying to do the same thing, but let's not forget, Canelo is not coming down to 160 pounds to fight Jamal Charlo. He has to go up to 168. So if he has to go up to 168 to fight Canelo, what is the problem with him moving up to 168 to fight Benavidez and go up and fight Caleb Plant? And when are we going to see that work against Daniel Jacobs? Daniel Jacobs a few years ago rolled up on him in the hallway. I think they were at a fight. Yeah, he went from being Lions only to Cubs only. You saw who the real lion was there, and that was Daniel Jacobs. I don't care what anyone says. He piped down straight away. And we saw what happened last week, yeah, with Jamal Charlo on Mike Tyson's Hot Boxing podcast. Yeah. Talking about he's a warrior, he's a throwback fighter. But then when Mike Tyson says, you know, hey, you know, why aren't you fighting this monster, the Mexican monster? You know, Benavidez, he ain't no monster. Why aren't you fighting him? He brings no value. Oh, what? No, you didn't go there. Call him out, champ. Call him out. Hey, this is Jamal Charlo. What's up? Who wants it? You can get it. No, call him out by name. You're like, you know, come on. Stop it. You guys need to stop it. You fanboys need to stop this nonsense. Straight up. Seriously. Yeah, I don't usually agree with Eddie Hearn, but I'm going to agree with him on this one. Yeah, I've given Eddie Hearn plenty of stick over the years. But I'm going to agree with him one because I've been saying it for weeks. These boys need to mix it up. You can't get the Canelo fight this year. It's done. He's fighting Bivol and then he's fighting Triple G. Whether you like those fights or not, agree with those fights or not, that's not the point. The point is, it's done. Canelo is off the table for you guys. And he's already put it out there. You boys need to fight each other. I know you're waiting for that bag, but you lot need to fight each other. You need to mix it up. Yeah? Give the fight fans what they want. Let's have some big fights. Come on. Yeah? And Caleb Plant has openly admitted that on the Boxing Voice recently in the last week or so. That, hey, that's what Canelo said, and if I want that shot, I'm going to have to fight these guys. So stop all the nonsense. Yeah, let's stop all the nonsense. All this, oh, Benavidez is in another division though. Yeah, but you're willing to go up to fight Canelo in another division. So you should be willing to go up this year and fight. And why wouldn't, actually hold on. Why wouldn't you do that? If you're going to fight Canelo 168 pounds, would you not want to acclimate yourself to that weight? Wouldn't you want to get used to that weight? So wouldn't you want to move up now and start fighting at 168? And take on the likes of Benavidez and Caleb Plant, guys who you think you can beat easily, to get yourself ready for Canelo? No? That's why I don't agree with that comment. Yeah, and I'm going to agree with Eddie Hearn on this one because I've been saying it for weeks too. Yeah, moving on from this topic. So a little bit of news I'm going to put out before I get into the real major news in the heavyweight division. Obviously, Eddie Hearn's put out there that Luis Ortiz's manager has said, obviously he reached out to, I'm guessing, you know, tried to make the Ruiz JR versus Derek Chisora fight, and I think Luis Ortiz's manager has also, he probably reached out to him as well because of, obviously they were looking for an interim fight for Anthony Joshua, and he put out there that apparently we're going to get this fight, Luis Ortiz versus Andy Ruiz. Listen, all I'm going to say, it's a pretty good fight. I've not got a problem with it. I think Luis Ortiz is starting to show his age. Father Time is, you know, kind of caught up with him. He didn't really look that good against Charles Martin, and obviously, you know, Andy Ruiz had a tough fight against Chris Arreola. You know, a lot of people were like, hey man, you know, you should have put him out there, that wasn't a good performance. But Arreola's, you know, he's got a chin on him, you know, he's a tough guy. So we'll see how that fight pans out. You know, I'm not going to talk about it too much, but that's a little bit of news for you guys out there. We'll have to just wait and see if that fight gets made. Okay, next bit of news is Jarrel Miller's drugs ban will end on June the 16th, and he will be eligible for a boxing license once again. The Nevada State Athletics Commission has said this only will be granted as long as he continues to record negative VADA tests. Okay, so look, Jarrel Miller. Listen, look, I've always liked Big Bailey Miller. Yeah, I've always liked him. I've never had an issue with him at all. Okay, the only problem is he's a drug cheat. I think he's that guy that, you know, he talks a lot of smack. He gets in his opponent's faces. You saw how the build-up with Anthony Joshua went. A lot of people are giving him stick and saying that we don't want to see him back in the sport. He's a drug cheat. Well, then you should have the same energy for someone like Dillian Whyte or even Tyson Fury. No? Exactly. And let's not forget, Dillian Whyte has failed 2 drug tests. Yeah? And they covered it up nicely the last time round and saved his ass. So when you have that, put that kind of energy out there, put it out there for even your own favourite fighters, you fanboys. All right, but I like Miller. I've got nothing wrong. I've got no issues with him other than he did test dirty, no doubt about it. Okay, this I think will definitely be his final shot. If he screws this up, he's done. He's out of boxing. The only problem is who's going to sign him. Eddie Hearn won't work with him. He was supposed to get a shot with Bob Arum. He was cracking, you know, he put a deal together with Bob Arum. I can't remember who he was supposed to fight, and then he tested positive again. Who's going to put their money on Miller now? That's the issue. You know, and will he be the same? He's been out for a long time. Hopefully he can get himself back together, stay off the drugs and those PEDs, and get himself back, you know, in the ring, and, you know, hopefully he can still make a bit of a noise in the heavyweight division. We'll have to wait and see. But let me know what you think of that, of course. All right, so Igor Klimas put out a couple of tweets recently. Listen, Mike Coppinger, a report for the ESPN, has been taking some shit lately, yeah? He took it from Canelo. But in all fairness, right, okay, to Mike, yeah? Mike put some information out there, right? Now, you see the tweet at the bottom for Mike Coppinger. He's actually deleted those tweets, yeah? But I managed to get hold of them, okay? But here's my take, right? Okay, he talked about Canelo and how Canelo was going with the Dazn deal, etc., Bivol, Triple G, etc., right? And then Canelo came out and said, "I will tell the people if a deal's done. Yeah, we are still in negotiations," and all that sort of stuff. And then guess what happened? Canelo signed with Dazn and signed those 2 fights. Okay, now Igor Klimas here, obviously, Mike Coppinger put out that, you know, Usyk received permission from the Ukrainian sports minister to leave the country during war and begin training camp for summer with a rematch with Anthony Joshua, right, for the unified title, etc. All right, and he's turned around and replied, "Let me tell you something, smart ass. Okay, first of all, Usyk do not need special permission to leave country as he is father of 3 children. It's Ukrainian law. Before you post anything, check first." All right, that was the first thing he put out there, Igor Klimas. Then he went on to say, "You mother need to stop posting fake news about my fighters. I'm telling you, stay away from all my fighters." Then Alexander Usyk puts this out.
Всем добрый вечер. Я принял решение начать подготовку на матч-реванш с Энтони Джошуа. Таким образом, я больше и лучше помогу своей стране, чем я буду стоять в теробороне и бегать с автоматом по Киеву. Дорогие друзья, очень большое количество моих друзей позвонило мне, моих близких, и поддержало меня в этом. Злопыхатели, добра вам и счастья, радости и мира. Все будет, слава Богу, и все будет Украина. Всем добра.
So Usyk then puts out confirming what Mike Coppinger said, that, hey, you know, I'm back in training for the Anthony Joshua rematch. It's going to happen, etc. I think it's going to happen in June. But although Mike's been taking a lot of shit, let's be real, yeah, he was right. Okay, even I gave Mike, I was laughing and poking fun at Mike Coppinger, but he's been right on all accounts. And maybe it's just the fighters and the promoters are peed off that he's managed to get those bits of information, and he was spot on. and they were the ones who wanted to put the information out there. All right, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's ego or whatever, but the fight's happening. That's all we know, yeah? From what we can understand, unless there's other further developments that are going on in Ukraine, Usyk has put it out there that the fight's going to happen, and he's starting training, okay? Whether Anthony Joshua is happy that that news is coming about, because I think he really wanted an interim fight before he got in there in the ring again with Usyk. Personally, that's just my personal opinion. That's just the way I see it, you know? We'll have to see how the fight pans out. Personally, my favourite in this fight, I actually chose Usyk to win the first fight. The way Anthony Joshua was talking about having to box him and outskill him and outthink him, Anthony Joshua's not that kind of fighter. But, you know, once the fight gets made and we get close to the fight, I'll give my take and my opinion of how the fight's going to play out, of course. But right now, I'm not going to go too deep into it. But it seems that the fight is on. Okay, it's a great fight. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure all the rest of you guys are out there as well. I personally don't think Anthony Joshua really wanted this fight or just the fight just yet. I think he wanted an interim fight, but looks like that's not going to happen. But we'll have to see how it all plays out. We need to hear it all official and it's all been signed, the dotted line, all that sort of stuff still yet. Now let's talk about the real juicy stuff, right? Now you might have seen on TalkSport, okay, TalkSport had Frank Warren and Dillian Whyte's lawyers on, right? This was pretty embarrassing that they couldn't keep it in-house, but they made it public. I think that was more down to Frank Warren. But I kind of want to go through this 10-minute, 12-minute interview or, you know, debate that these two were having on TalkSport and kind of break down and give my views on it. There's other stuff I want to touch on as well quickly. You know, this shouldn't take too long. You know, this is literally the last topic of the day, right? But I just cringed all the way through this. Yeah, but you know, there's some things that we have to kind of address. There's, you know, some things you got to look at and think, hold on, who's really at fault here, kind of thing. So let's start listening to it, and as we go through, you know, I will, you know, stop the audio and give my take, and then play the rest of it for you.
Frank Warren is on the line live, and we've been rejoined by Dillian Whyte's lawyer, Jeff Benz. Jeff, good morning once again. This is your chance. Tell Frank what you're not happy with.
Well, I understand that while I was gone, Frank managed to breach our confidential agreement and read it. But putting that aside, I don't know what else he said. But Frank, where are we on the tickets that Dillian asked to buy before you sold them all to Ticketmaster? He hasn't been given the chance to buy any. And where are we on the comps that he asked for? And where are we on the escrow that we've asked for? And we don't have any escrow of Dillian's purse. We've been asking for that for over a month. These are just basic things, putting aside the economic issue. So go ahead, Frank. I want to hear from you.
Did you sign a contract for this bout?
We did, Frank, on the representation by your son that we would have further negotiations. You weren't part of that discussion. I haven't even talked to you since before the first bid.
Hey, are you going to let me answer?
Jeff, let Frank speak.
Jeff, there's, you know, other people have got views besides yours. So let's just go through this. You signed a bout agreement. In that bout agreement, where does it say anything about escrow accounts, tickets, or any of these things that you mentioned? Where does it? You're a lawyer. Where does it say anything in that contract you signed?
Hey, Frank, if you want to get into a legal debate about Swiss law, which is what apparently applies to this, I'm happy to do it, man. I'm happy to do it.
So then answer the question. Answer the question. You're a lawyer.
Frank, are you going to let Frank, baby, are you going to let me answer?
I'm not a lawyer. I left school when I was 14 and a half. You're a lawyer.
Are you going to let me answer?
Did you advise your client to sign the bout agreement?
Okay, Jeff, you heard what Frank's saying, so now is your chance to answer it. Were these things in the contract?
I get to talk. We signed a form bout agreement. We had negotiations that said we were going to have further conversations about all these other elements. Frank should know that. He hasn't been told that by his lawyer or by his son. It's not my fault.
So here's my take on it so far from what I'm hearing, okay? And then there's a lot more to this debate, and I'm going to play all of it to you and break it all down for my opinion. Remember, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how the law works and the legalities work of this contract. I understand that. But just using common sense and logic, basic common sense and logic, I'm going to apply my opinion to this whole saga, right? So, you know, Dillian Whyte's lawyers turned around and said, where's the tickets that you promised? Where's the comp? Where's the escrow? Where's all this? And then Frank Warren's come back and said to him, hey, listen, did you sign the bout agreement? Did you advise your fighter to sign the bout agreement? And his lawyer turned around and said, yes, we did, but providing on the basis that there will be further negotiations, right? Frank's turned around and said, well, hold on. Where in that contract did you sign? Did it say we were going to give you all of this? It's an escrow, the tickets, and all that sort of stuff. Did it say that in the contract? No, it didn't say that in the contract. But your son and your lawyer said that there will be agreed to further negotiations. Okay, but did it say in the contract that my son and my lawyer have agreed to have further negotiations with Dillian for this fight and put in other clauses later on at a later date for this fight? The answer is no. So if it's not in the contract, you can't cry about it. This to me shows a lot of incompetence on the so far. This shows incompetence on the behalf of Dillian Whyte's lawyer. Because why wasn't that in the contract? Why didn't you say, hey, we want this in the contract? We want the escrow. You had plenty of time to negotiate it. We want the escrow agreement in the contract. We want the ticket comps in the contract. We also want basically this should have all been in the contract before Dillian Whyte signed it. Okay, instead of playing games and playing peekaboo and you can't see me stuff that they've been doing, that's what you should have done. You should have put it in the contract, right? Because now you put yourself in a position where Frank Warren can turn around and say, hey, it wasn't in the contract. Guess what? We owned the fight. You signed the contract. That's that. You're not getting any more. Now, some of you might think, well, Frank's being unfair and blah, 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 and all that stuff. Remember, this is business. So if you didn't put it in the contract, that's on you. That's your fault. You're supposed to be a lawyer. You should know how to cover all these things off, no? Surely. I'm just using common sense and logic here. I'm not a lawyer, but that's how it seems so far to me. Let's break down the rest of this debate.
So, Frank, tell me where we are on get Dillian's money guaranteed.
Answer my question, Frank. Why don't you want to put Dillian's properly?
Frank, why don't you want to put Dillian's money in a place that's protected?
It is protected.
What's wrong with that? Where is it then, Frank?
Let me just tell you something. Let me just tell you something.
On you go, Frank. On you go, Frank.
You've signed an agreement. You're his lawyer. So if you're worried about the money, then he should be looking to you because you advised him to sign it. And if there's a problem, if I was him, I'd sue you if I don't get paid because you advised him to sign it.
Jeff, is that not a fair point? You've signed the contract. Does Frank not have a point? You're his lawyer.
Not at all. Frank's beating around the bush. He won't answer my questions.
But Jeff, is there a contractual obligation?
Hang on, Jeff. Here's Simon.
Jeff, is there a contractual obligation in the contract for Frank to put money in escrow?
There isn't. We agreed to.
So there you go, right there, right? Dillian Whyte's lawyer has admitted that there is no contractual agreement to put the money in escrow. All right? There's no contractual agreement to put the money into an escrow account. It's that simple. And as the interview goes on, if you don't know what an escrow account is, it will be explained to you. But the fact is that it was not in the contract. So Frank Warren legally and Bob Arum are legally not obliged to put any money in an escrow account for Dillian Whyte. Okay, but more unfolds here as we go along. Let's listen to the rest of it.
So with respect,
we agree.
But hang on, Jeff, I haven't finished. I haven't finished. With respect, if it's not a contractual obligation to put it in escrow, why are you asking for something that's not a contractual obligation then?
To ask Mr. Warren then why.
But I'm asking you because you're the one that's negotiated the contract.
Why was Dillian Whyte shamed by Mr. Warren for not going?
That's not the question I asked you, Jeff. Jeff, I asked you. You're putting it on Frank's toes. Hang on, Jeff. You're putting it on Frank's toes about escrow. If it's not in the contract, why would you ask for something that you've had your client sign a contract on that doesn't reference that in the contract?
Am I talking non-commercial words to you guys?
Yeah, you are.
We had a discussion.
You're talking non-commercial words.
Speak legal.
We had a discussion. I'm sorry. Listen, would you just give me a second? We had a discussion with the other side about all of this, and we had a deadline to sign a form bout agreement that Mr. Warren wants to read a bunch of other things into, including Dillian's obligations to promote the fight and do other things, which aren't in there either. And you now want to hold me to that standard? We had a discussion where we were going to have a further discussion. This is what goes on in the real world of business when you do commercial deals. It might not go on in Frank's little boxing world, but this is what real deal makers do.
Frank, would
and
you
that's
argue?
the discussion we had.
Frank,
Frank would meet the deadline.
Notice there, he hasn't answered the question though. Why would you get Dillian Whyte to sign a contract? Why would you ask for escrow? Why would you kick up a fuss about an escrow account being created and the money being put in that escrow account if it wasn't in the contract? Why? Why are you kicking up about it? Why didn't you negotiate it? Why didn't you have it put in the contract? You had 30 days to go back and forth. So why didn't you?
Frank, would you argue that you've done everything by the book, Frank?
Listen, if I haven't, sue me. This contract, I've abided by it. It took them nearly 4 weeks to sign a contract. They signed it an hour before it was due to be signed. Clause 11 of that contract, it says the boxers shall reasonably promote the bout, the WB sanction of the bout, and the WBC heavyweight championship positively in their social media accounts. Dillian has not posted one thing about this fight. Not one.
Why is that, Jeff?
Is that not a contractual obligation, Jeff, Mr. Lawyer?
Well, Mr. Warren, it is not contractually defined as to what that means. You tell me what's reasonable, buddy.
I'll tell you what it means. It means he should be.
I know what you think it means. I think you think it means he should be on it every day. He has no obligation.
Well, he's not done one.
There. And let's talk about.
So again, in the contract, it states that he needs to do reasonable promotion of the fight, Dillian Whyte, through his social media accounts, and he's not done any. Right, and that might mean he just puts one post saying that the fight's on, contract signed, thank you very much. Okay, but he's not done that. It doesn't really say anything about him turning up to press conferences and stuff like that. So from Frank Warren's side, yes, Dillian is required through his social media accounts to contractually, it sounds like he is obliged contractually to promote the fight through his social media accounts, but it doesn't actually say in the contract, because Frank hasn't said that, and this is on Frank, where he's moaning he is not promoting the fight, he didn't turn up to the press conference. It doesn't actually say that Dillian has to turn up to the press conference. So yes, he needs to promote it reasonably through his social media accounts, but it doesn't actually say anything about him turning up to the press conference. So technically speaking, on this one, I have to say Frank shot himself in the foot by not putting that in the contract.
Let's talk about how long it took to do this agreement. You guys represented to us a form agreement that turned out to not be the form agreement. You misrepresented to us what the form agreement was, and when we got to the bottom of it, we had to go back to what was actually the form agreement. Now, talk about why that takes time. Ask your guys.
Tell me something. Why did you sign this agreement? There's no escrow in it. You're obliged to do things promotionally. Why did you sign it if you're not going to do these things? And you want more things that are not in the contract?
Frank,
you're a lawyer.
Frank,
I'm not a lawyer. You're
Frank,
the lawyer. You're the lawyer. What are you doing?
Mr. Non-lawyer.
You've obviously not protected all the things you're asking for is because obviously, in your view, you've not protected your client's interest. You shouldn't have advised him to sign the contract.
Not at all, Frank. Frank, show me where it is that we have to do any of the things that you've said, other than reasonably promote.
Can I ask you two boys, besides tittle tattle, is there any contractual breaches on either side? Because on one side there seems to be an obligation for Dillian to make appearances, which you're disputing, Dillian's lawyer, and on the other side of it, you're making observations about there should be an escrow account. Frank, at the beginning of the conversation, I don't want to throw under the bus, but you mentioned that money had been placed in escrow. It seems that it hasn't been. If there's no contractual obligation to do that, yes, you did.
The offer was made.
Well, okay, well, an offer was made to place an escrow.
What I said to you, I said on the 26th of February, my son sent a text to Jeff at 17:08 saying that we'd provide a private plane to bring him over. Although we're not obliged to do it, it's not contractual. None of this is.
Why are we arguing about escrows then, Frank? Why is there a reference to escrow? If you don't have to do it, it's not contractual obligation.
Let me finish then, and I'll explain. Because they asked for the money to go into escrow, and we agreed to do that, subject to him showing up to the launch press conference.
Is that right, Jeff?
You want to partially read your son's text to me? I can read you the whole lot of them if you want.
But is that right,
Jeff? I can read a whole bunch of emails too.
Is that right, Jeff?
No, it's not accurate.
No, it's not.
Not accurate.
Read it.
Sure. Let me go back to.
Read it.
This is tied to making. This is me to your son. This is tied to making progress on incentives and nailing down comps, credentials, access, and the ticket buy, as well as getting the escrow nailed down. You failed to mention that text, probably 2 texts before your son's that you just read from. So if you want to play this game, I'm in this business.
On the
I tell the whole story.
February,
I'm looking at the 20. I'm looking at the 26th of February text in my phone right now, Frank. In my phone. Not a selective one your son printed for you or whatever you got. But if you want to get into that battle, I got the whole record. I am not at all concerned about the accuracy of what I say and what I said. I'm in a regulated
Let me ask you a
profession.
question.
Jeff,
let me ask you a question for once, try and be honest. Was there an offer made to you to put the money into escrow or not?
There was never any offer to put the money into escrow that was with an escrow agreement and terms and the ability to do it. None of it.
Oh,
you wanted us to fly millions.
Guys, I've got to say, Frank.
Promise and a wing and a prayer.
Jeff, Frank, it seems to me one of you's not telling the truth. So who is it?
You're a lawyer, Jeff, and I'm going to say this as a lawyer, and I'm as I say, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to say you're a liar.
Well, Frank, you might get to test that out. Frank, you might get to test that out in court. But I would say to you, it makes a lot more sense for us to start talking to each other directly than through the radio. So if you want to do it this way, I'm happy to do it.
Adhere to the contract that you got your client to sign. Adhere to the contract you got your client to sign.
We're following.
Now, at this point, there's a lot of he said, she said, this text, that text. I can't verify any of that stuff. I can't see the texts or the emails or anything like that. But I'm going to go to Frank's very last point on that part of the conversation, which is adhere to the contract. You signed a contract. That contract did not include escrow. It didn't include ticket comps. It didn't include anything you requested in there, right? It did say that he needed to promote the fight reasonably through his social media accounts, but also at the same time, it doesn't say that he had to turn up to the press conferences. Okay, so there's a cock up on both sides in a sense, really, where Frank's mad he didn't turn up to the pressers, but it wasn't in the contract he had to turn up for the pressers. He should have promoted a little bit over his social media accounts. He didn't promote over his social media accounts. Yeah, the lawyer says we wanted escrow and ticket comps. That wasn't in the contract. Guess what? You don't get it if you don't put it in the contract. Now you're in this situation with your fighter. So I feel like there's a bit of incompetence from both sides, to be honest with you. It's been very sloppy and poorly done between both teams so far. But we're going to hear a lot more of what these guys have to say as well. There's more to this exchange between these two guys. But if you signed a contract, that's what you get. You know, it's not shake my hand, trust me. Here's my text message, trust me. It's in the eyes of the law. It's going to say, contract says this, you're supposed to do that.
Frank, Jeff, it does seem very clear to the millions who are listening and watching this unfold on YouTube and Facebook at the moment that the two of you need to speak. You need to speak further with each other. Frank, is that not right? Jeff, is that not right? Because you've got to get this sorted out. Because all fight fans want is the fight.
Absolutely. I just said it. I agree with you. We've been trying to talk to them for months.
But in fairness to Frank, if you've signed a contract and you're trying to circumnavigate that contract by renegotiating things, then Frank does have a point to say, adhere to your contract. If you want some other things, fine, we'll discuss them. But adhere to the basic principles of your contract first.
Well, we have.
Thank you.
Simon, explain to the listeners what escrow is.
It means parked in an account held to order in favour of the fighter. An escrow account, by the way, Jeff, it's your job to set up an escrow account. If you want money paid into an escrow account, you give Frank the coordinates, not the other way around.
I don't buy that, especially when
well, it's not. Hang on, it's not a case of buying it. It's a fact. If you want money paid to an escrow account, you tell Frank where you want to pay it.
Now, from what I can see, this is where the lawyer, Dillian Whyte's lawyer, is showing more incompetence because the presenter of the show has turned around and said, "Hey, listen, if you want an escrow account, you need to set up an escrow account and then tell Frank where you want that money to put it. You need to set up the coordinates, for where you want that money to go, right? So it's got to be Dillian Whyte's escrow account, and it will be held there until the fight or whatever's done, etc. and stuff like that. Okay, after the fight, the money will get released to Dillian Whyte. Okay, there has to be, with an escrow account, there's provisions put in place. So, okay, here's your escrow account. Is that your escrow account? All right, we're going to put the 4 million in there. But before we do, we're going to agree on a few things. Dillian Whyte must turn up to the press conferences. Dillian Whyte must promote the fight through his social media platforms reasonably, right? And this is what reasonably looks like. And then they'll come back and say, okay, we'll agree to do all of that. But you know what? We want some tickets for Dillian. Dillian wants to have some of his friends and family, etc., over at the fight. He wants them at ringside. Okay, cool. Here's the tickets. How many tickets do you want? Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of provisions put in place, and once they agree with that, the escrow account, the money goes into the escrow account, and as long as all parties, deliver on what they've agreed on delivering for each other, then the money at the end of the fight will get released to Dillian Whyte. That's it.
Jeff, a simple question. Have you acted from start to finish so far honourably?
Absolutely.
Frank, have you started on this from start to now honourably?
Everything in that contract, since I've won the purse bid, or Queensberry won the purse bid, everything that we've had to do, we've done. Money was lodged. The deposit was lodged with the WBC, over $4 million.
So there you go. There's a good point as well. $4 million has been lodged or logged or, deposited to the WBC to look after for the fighters. So, there's a bit of a guarantee right there.
The venue, the date was given on time. The contract from Tyson was signed. They eventually signed theirs, all on site. Everything done. The press conference, they never showed up at all at. That's their first acts of bad faith as far as this is concerned.
Was it a breach of contract, Frank, then? Is that a breach of contract?
Of course it is. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and we will deal with it. We've already written to them and told them we reserve our position and we'll deal with that after the fight.
So are you two going to deal with everything to allow this fight to go ahead, which is what fight fans want? Jeff, is everything going to get sorted out?
The fight's going to go forward. Dillian's going to fight. Is it all going to be sorted out? Well, that's going to depend on a lot of people other than us.
Do you echo that, Frank?
Look, the smoking gun was fired. We went ahead with a press conference and sold out in 3 hours. That smoking gun was fired. That's gone. You've not helped at all in any way, in any shape or form. There's been nothing from Dillian to help promote this fight. That's a fact of life. You even wrote to us and said to us, we can't use his photographs on the poster. How is that supposed to?
Is that true, Jeff? That they couldn't use Dillian's image on the poster?
We wrote to them and said you needed Dillian's approval in order to use his artwork on the poster. We believe they misrepresented Dillian's status in the artwork that they chose. They never came to us and asked for consent. I've been at this for 30 years, advising and running people that run events, and I've never once dared to use an individual's image or anything else without their consent. And I don't understand what's wrong with that view.
This bit just sounds tit for tat a little bit. Like, is it a really big deal that Dillian Whyte's picture was used? Or maybe he wanted a better picture used. Like boxing fans don't care. They just care the fight's on, man. Like chill out. Is it really that big of a deal? I can understand the legalities involved because he's probably got there's truth to that, I'm sure, in terms of the legalities of that you would have to have his permission. But is it really a big deal that it sounds petty to me?
Okay. Jeff Benz, Dillian Whyte's lawyer, we want to thank you for your time. Frank Warren, thank you for joining us. You two have got a lot to catch up on. The fight is live and exclusive on TalkSport, and let's hope it's as fiery as the build-up.
Look, this just sounds like a whole mess, yeah. And I'm sure Eddie Hearn's had his part to play with all of this as well, being upset that he lost the purse bid. I'm sure, and Dillian Whyte as well. I think his brother did an interview where he turned around and said, we don't know whether Dillian Whyte is going to be protected in this situation, the money, what if something happens on the fight night? I feel like Dillian Whyte, from a business and promotional point of view, feels insecure. I'm not saying as a fighter in terms of in the ring. He's very confident in that area. But I feel like he's insecure because Eddie Hearn's got nothing to do with this. He's got no say in it. He's got no power here. He's got no authority here. It's all Bob Arum and Frank Warren. And the simple fact of the matter is they own the rights of the fight. So they call it and make it how they want to make it. They run the promotion how they want to run the promotion. All right, and I think Dillian also at the same time. Remember when Dillian Whyte tested positive against Oscar Rivas, he is a drug cheat. He's a 2-time drug cheat. You know, there's a chance he could look. Don't get me wrong, Tyson Fury is a drug cheat as well. Yeah, let's not forget that. Tyson Fury is a drug cheat as well. They're both drug cheats. But I think from Dillian's standpoint, if something was to go wrong like it did in the Oscar Rivas situation, he's got Eddie Hearn there to maneuver and manipulate and do some back office deals with the British Boxing Board of Control, which is clearly what happened the last time round, because he should have been banned for that. He tested positive, point blank and simple. Yeah, it's that simple. Okay. But Tyson Fury, if that was something to happen with Tyson, you know, he's kind of covered and protected because he's got both his promoters there, but, you know, and they're in control of the situation. But Dillian Whyte doesn't have that. You see what I mean? He doesn't have that in this because Eddie Hearn is not involved in any shape, way or form. So maybe that's a little bit where the insecurities are coming from, right? Okay. If something goes wrong, Eddie can't help me. Yeah. So he's trying to put things into his, you know, trying to get things in his favor a little bit, but I don't think it's going to work. There's going to be a whole load of mess, I think, after this. I don't think Frank Warren's going to let this go even after the fight. Hopefully the fight does carry on. It will happen. You know, his lawyers just said it will happen. What happens after the fight is completely different, you know, in terms of what if this is all going to ever get sorted out. But we'll have to wait and see. I feel like this is going to be, it's ruining the fight in a sense as well, because obviously as fight fans, all we care about is the fight, but the fight should be a great fight. But unfortunately, you know, it could get messy after that, where, you know, I hope it doesn't get to the point where both fighters are put in a position they can't box until this is resolved in court, if that makes sense. That's all I hope. You know, we'll have to wait and see though. But wait a minute, there's more on this situation. Bob Arum on Eddie Hearn. He said we banned him from going to the Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte fight. He's going to carry Whyte's bucket, he said, so he can get to the fight. What kind of crazy shit is that? If he called me up, you don't think I'd get him a ticket? Yeah, listen, I agree with that. Yeah, I think that's just really stupid. Eddie Hearn keeps putting this out there. He keeps, I don't know, you know, with Eddie Hearn, sometimes Eddie Hearn, like, I don't trust any promoter and stuff like that. But one thing I will say about Eddie Hearn, I feel Eddie Hearn's deluded. Yeah, he honestly believes, deluded and paranoid. He honestly believes that these guys are all out to get him. He's a massive threat. He's not really done anything with Dazn in the US yet. He's not really doing much with Dazn here in the UK yet. You know, so what threat are they looking at? Yeah, they just turned around and went back on themselves, you know, saying that pay-per-view was dead at the beginning, and now they're saying, oh, we have to do pay-per-view because, you know, that's the only way we can pay Canelo the big money he wants and compete with the other US broadcasters. All right. But I think he's deluded a little bit as well, where he feels like, you know, this is, I don't know if this ego he's created, I don't know what you want to call it. But he's a bit of a narcissist, to be honest with you. They all are, but he's probably the worst one out of all of them. They're all a bunch of narcissists, but he's the worst one, definitely. And he actually believes, he said the same thing with the Canelo, Caleb Plant situation. Oh, they were watching me and they had security following me around everywhere. You know, it was funny. It was a joke. All right, you know what, Eddie, if you want me to believe that, make videos of it and put it up on your social media platform. Because I'm not going to believe it when it comes out of his mouth. I don't trust no promoter. I definitely don't trust him. You know, I'm not going to trust him. And I think this is nonsense as well. I think if he did ring Bob up and say, hey, Bob, sort me out with some tickets, will you? I need to be ringside for my fight. Yeah, sure, no problem, Eddie. And Bob will probably have him sit right next to him. Yeah, I'm not saying Bob Arum's a great guy and he's this awesome dude. No, of course he's not. He's a shady fuck as well. But my take is that I think something as simple as this, they've done a lot of business together, Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum. And I personally think, yeah, you know what, Bob will sort him out with some tickets. Even if Frank Warren was going to be difficult bad, because him and Frank have that problem. They have a lot of issues between each other, Eddie and Frank. I'm pretty sure Bob will be like, listen, tickets are on the way. Don't worry, Eddie, tickets are on the way. No problem, mate. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it would go down. Anyway, this whole situation is becoming very immature, pathetic, and a little bit, it's dragging out now. It's getting boring, yeah? You lot need to kiss and make up and just do what's best for the fighters involved, all right? Come to an agreement, yeah? Come to a middle ground, yeah? Let's be sensible about these things, all right? Let's not have a court case after the fight's done, where both fighters now cannot fight or can't get in, have competitive fights because there's a lawsuit going on or something like that. Let's not do that to the fighters, yeah? Dillian Whyte needs to accept he's getting paid what he's getting paid, all right? But at the same time, Frank Warren, meet him halfway and turn around and say, listen, okay, here's your set up the escrow account, we'll put the money in the escrow account. But Dillian needs to promote the fight, etc., and all that sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean? You can sort this out easily. Egos are getting in the way of it. But at the end of the day, the fight's happening. As far as we can see, that's what both sides are saying, that the fight is still going to happen. So it's going to be a great fight. My concern is that afterwards there's some legalities or lawsuits come about, and we then have a problem where potentially both guys can't fight anymore, or will have to cease fighting because, there's a lawsuit going on. Do you know what I mean? They can't continue with their careers until they're sorted out in court. That will be really bad for the sport, in my opinion, and for both fighters. Look, that's all I've got to say to you guys today. Went a little bit longer than I usually want it to. I'm always trying to keep to an hour, but a little bit over that. But look, listen, hit me up in the comment section. Let me know what you think of any of the topics I spoke about today. As always, like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, this is Cypherbox reminding you to keep it real.
I was gonna rip his heart out, I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lennox is a conqueror, no, I'm Alexander, he's no Alexander. I'm the best ever, there's never been anybody ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston, I'm Jack Dempsey, there's no one like me. I'm from their claw, there's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart, I wanna eat his children. Praise be to Allah.